Hey y'all! Welcome to another episode of the Well Balanced series. Today I'm talking to Molly, who's on Instagram as Zucchini Who, and we're talking all about IBS, acid reflux, and all the things gut health. It's definitely a later episode, so hopefully you can tune in. It's so dark here already, so not a fan of that, but can't help with daylight savings. So, anyways, we're gonna, as soon as she gets on this call, we'll dive in. But again, for any of you that are new to these lives, you can go to my Instagram. They are all saved there. And then they're also all on my YouTube channel. So you can go back and watch any episode that you want to. There's so many amazing guests that I've had, and they're all so knowledgeable. So definitely important to, pick your poison and see what you want to learn more about. So let me see if I can get her in on this. Let's see. Hold on. Swear, getting people in on these things is always hard. I end up just talking to myself. So hold on a second. Don't have my computer with me, so we'll see if she gets on.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, Molly, how are you?
Good. So sorry I'm a couple minutes late.
Oh, you're totally
Crazy.
fine. I end up just talking to myself anyways. I'm always like, where's everyone? I have no idea. People are
I,
always like,
I know that always happens. Thank you so much for having me.
yeah, of course. Thank you. Sorry. Where are you located? Is it super late there?
No, it's not. So I'm located in Boston, so it's just 6 p.m.
Okay. Yeah, Georgia. So we're on the same time.
Awesome.
It's just so dark. I'm like, it's already so dark outside and I'm already ready for bed, but probably should wait a few hours.
I know it's nice we had the fall back, but I still am like, once it gets dark, I'm like, okay, I'm ready for bed.
I know, same. So, well, I appreciate you taking the time to hop on this with me, and I'm super excited to share your knowledge with my audience and, of course, yours. So basically how these work, you'll just kind of start with an introduction. Love to hear everyone's story, what got them into the holistic health space, root cause, approach, that type of thing, if you have a personal journey yourself. And then topic of discussion was definitely the acid reflux, IBS. I'm sure you have a plethora of things we could talk about, but we'll try to keep things, pretty brief in terms of things we can do to support those symptoms and how they come about, all of that. And then, of course, talk about gut health in general. So take it away and share your story with everyone. Would love to hear.
Yeah, so welcome everybody that's joining. My name is Molly, and I run a platform on Instagram and YouTube to share evidence-based information about gut health and IBS. So I feel like in the gut health space, there's a lot of misinformation and there's a lot of confusion. In nutrition in general, there's so much information, and I think it's valuable to really, check your sources and always make sure you're having like a science-backed approach. And so basically, I went to undergrad at Boston University. I went to graduate school at Boston University, and I'm currently completing my internship to be a registered dietitian. So I really, I have a strong science background, and that has informed sort of the information that I share in the direction of my career. But in terms of my own personal journey, I also got really interested in IBS because of my experience with IBS. IBS is sort of like a blanket term. If you're not familiar, it's irritable bowel syndrome. And it's kind of like the diagnosis that often you get at the doctor. If you have, GI discomfort, bowel irregularity, but there's nothing else going on. Like there's nothing, you don't have colitis, you don't have Crohn's. It's sort of like an umbrella term, and they're actually finding now in research that there may be more, there may be more types of IBS than we even know. But anyway, my personal story, I started to really struggle with it in undergrad. It was partially due to stress. I had a lot of changes during that time. And I think my mind and my gut sort of got dysregulated. I also wasn't supporting my gut with like balanced nutrition. I was super busy studying all the time. And so it eventually sort of resulted in some pretty severe IBS and acid reflux. And so I had this sort of um, realization when I would go to the doctor and they really didn't have anything for me. I just needed to take my healing into my own hands. And so, with my science background and then also with my own experience, I kind of was able to like dig through the research, figure out a way, like a protocol for myself to heal. Um, and luckily it worked, and I was able to fully recover even after being on medication for a year for acid reflux. I was
Oh,
able
wow.
to clean off of that, which is really a tough process. And I feel really passionate about sharing those tools with other people. So yeah.
I love that. Well, cheers to that because I'm sure that a lot of people hope they can have that success story, and it's cool knowing that you can. There was a question definitely about something like that, and it's something that I think people, it's hard to feel that there is more you can look into because sometimes the conventional side of things don't always ask those deeper questions and draw those connections. And so it's really cool to see people sharing their success stories and seeing that once you kind of get to the root cause and really focus on where that dysfunction is, you can heal and support your body. So that's
Right.
awesome.
Yeah.
Um, so have you always had a passion for this? Like, do you always want to be an RD, or kind of like, did this whole process with your journey kind of stimulate that decision?
So I actually didn't know I wanted to be a registered dietitian. I um I always have loved food and like physiology and how the body works and science in general, but I went to University of Colorado for my first year of college, and then I actually dropped out and went to Bali for 2 months. And I
Wow,
yeah, I was already a yoga instructor, but I did another yoga training there. And I
that's
honestly thought,
amazing.
yeah, yeah. I honestly thought I wasn't really gonna go back to school. Like I really didn't. I was lost, kind of. And it was in that time. It was like really heavy into meditation, that training, and I sort of just like knew. All of a sudden, I was like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna be a dietitian. And then I reapplied and got into you, and then I went there.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. I would love to go to Bali. I've never been there.
It's amazing. I highly recommend.
Cool. I'll add it to my list for sure. Um, okay, so let's talk about like general gut health then. So just kind of starting there and explaining to the audience, what is the gut and what is this whole thing? Is it just a fad? Is it something we should care about? And, the things that we can do that, or the things that we do that affect it, and then what we can do to support it.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we say the gut microbiome, what we're talking about is this collection of trillions of bacteria in our large intestine. And more research has started to come out about the importance of these bacteria. So we have more bacteria cells than human cells. So we're actually more bacteria than human cells, which is fascinating. And the gut is super important in terms of, absorbing certain nutrients. Um, it When we eat certain foods like fruits and vegetables that have prebiotic fiber, which prebiotic fiber is just the type of fiber found in fruits and vegetables that can feed our gut microbiome. The gut microbes produce certain compounds like short chain fatty acids, like vitamins that are really, really important for your overall health. And so, what the microbes produce is called postbiotics, and they play a significant role in so many things. But one major thing that the gut microbiome also plays a role in is your immune system. So it's really important in terms of nourishing the gut microbiome for your immune health. It's also related to skin health, hormonal health. And some things that we can do to support the gut microbiome include eating a wide variety of foods. In fact, that's one of the most well-studied, I don't want to say protocols, but the most well-studied ways to benefit the gut is a wide variety of foods. And so when we eat a wide variety of plants, whether, it's getting from fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, those all have different fibers and they help to feed different types of microbes. They all sort of like feed on different things. And we want that diversity. We want the diversity of foods and of microbes because a diverse microbiome is a healthy microbiome. When we don't have that diversity, whether that's because we've been on rounds of antibiotics or maybe our diet is kind of limited, then it leaves us susceptible to something called dysbiosis, which is a gut imbalance, or potentially an overgrowth of a bacteria that we wouldn't want in a high level. So eating this wide variety of foods helps to keep a healthy balance. That's one major thing. And in terms of like a lot of people with gut issues will restrict certain foods. And in some ways that can negatively impact them if it's like an unnecessary restriction. And so in terms of other things that are non-food related, it's also really important to manage stress. And I know that's so annoying to hear because it's like we all have stress and it's like, how can we add another thing to our to-do list, like to manage stress? But our mind and our gut are connected, and that's well known. They're connected via something called the enteric nervous system. And if we're having dysregulation in our mind, we're like in a fight or flight, we're having chronic stress, our gut is going to respond by maybe, decreasing acid secretion, decreasing blood flow to the stomach, tensing the muscles of the stomach. And these are all physiological things that can impact digestion. Have been associated with a less diverse gut microbiome and different levels of microbes. And so it's interesting too, because they're also finding out that our gut health can impact our mental health. So
Right.
it's both ways. And making sure that you're sleeping as you can, trying to get those like 7 to 8 hours. And doing things like stress management doesn't necessarily have to be like, I'm going to meditate for 30 minutes in the morning. It could be 5 minutes of breath work, or it could be going to a dance class, or making sure that you're connecting with the people you love, like making sure you're doing things you like. And doing things to optimize digestion as well. If you're experiencing gut issues, that can be helpful in terms of like chewing your food well, doing cooked veggies versus raw veggies. If you're like experiencing severe symptoms, that could be one tip.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think that it's such a complex topic, but it's so important because to keep things like high level sometimes, because some people can get so overwhelmed. And I think it's just, from starting in the brain, working your way down and addressing that dysfunction from all aspects is so important. But I think it's hard because, with all the things that we deal with, whether it's medication, antibiotics, refined foods, stress, like you said, it's gut is constantly needing to be worked on. So I think that that's hard because it's definitely something that, I feel like some people are like, oh, can you heal my gut and fix my gut and be done with it? Where it's like, no, we need to continue to do this all the time. Mm-hmm. So are there any specific, foods that you would recommend that can be really supportive for, gut health in general and support that people can implement very easily throughout their day? And then if you also want to answer that question too, why is cooked veggies better than raw?
Yeah, so I'll start with that question. Thanks for asking. So in terms of when someone's having digestive issues, one helpful thing is to sort of begin the digestion process even before it reaches the gut. So there's something called a small particle theory. And that theory is, for people with whether it's Crohn's or, IBS, if they're having digestive issues, it's helpful to almost break down the particles, whether that's, doing a nut butter versus nuts, a smoothie, a stew, a soup. When you start to cook the veggies, it starts to break down those fibers and it's a little bit easier to digest. So I hope that answers that question in terms of cooking, whether that's steaming or roasting, it does help to break down the fibers. But in general, having a balance of carbohydrates, protein, and veggies or fruits on your plate balance is so important. And so we have to work on those big overarching themes of, are my meals balanced? Am I getting enough nutrition? Even before we think about supplements and stuff like that. And it's amazing when you look at the composition of your meals and are they regular, because that plays into blood sugar control, plays into gut health. It's all really connected. So anyways, to answer your question, which I can't remember what it was.
You kind of did. I mean, nutrient dense foods, blood sugar, but any specific foods that that are very soothing for the gut lining and just supporting the gut in general.
Yeah, so it's different for everyone depending on what they're experiencing, but I would definitely recommend making sure you're getting enough carbohydrates and protein. Carbohydrates, like white rice, oats, eat brown rice too, either one. Squashes, pumpkin, I'm trying to think, quinoa. A lot of these are really easy to digest if you're, having some irritation. And even a sourdough or gluten-free bread, making sure you're getting enough carbohydrates is going to be helpful to make sure you're going to the bathroom effectively. And then always making sure your meal has a protein in addition to a carbohydrate source. So the protein could be, fish, eggs, chicken, tofu. The protein is supportive for, gut integrity. Our gut is a muscle and we have to eat enough to support that. Your gut can literally atrophy if you've gone years and years and years of restriction. I see a lot of chronic dieters, and it's really important to, make sure you're getting enough nutrition so that your gut can function properly. But also, our fruits and veggies are going to deliver so much important fiber, vitamins and minerals. I recently was looking at some research that said certain nutrient deficiencies can contribute to poor digestion, including iron. So that's really important, making sure that you're getting enough of your B vitamins and iron. And that doesn't really mean you have to take a supplement by any means. Because iron supplements can get tricky, so just making sure you're getting in a variety and getting enough nutrition.
Yeah, I love that. And I think foods such as bone broth, aloe vera juice, throat coat tea, those are some things that I know from my network and my base and everything that can be really supportive to help keep that gut lining intact, which is really helpful.
Yeah, for sure. Those
But okay, so let's dive into acid reflux, IBS. So you kind of touched on it a little bit, but just kind of how they occur and in the body from, dysfunction purposes. And then also just kind of, let's just start there. We'll just say a little bit of 101 of what they are.
Yeah, so I think it's really important to think about the root causes for these types of issues. IBS, there's a genetic link. It can be caused by chronic stress. It can be caused by damage, in the intestinal permeability. It can be, related to years of chronic dieting, issues with digestion. So there's a lot, and it's really individual. And then in terms of acid reflux, there's also many different possibilities for the root cause. There's functional, which would be maybe the lower esophageal sphincter just isn't really closing. You could have a hiatal hernia. Those things are important to get checked out from a GI doctor, and I always recommend, starting your gut health journey there, just to rule out anything, so you don't
Right.
have to, like, keep Googling your symptoms. Like, definitely Googling symptoms just never goes well. So, um, and then also acid reflux can be caused by like slow gastric motility. IBS can also be caused by that too. And slow gastric motility can be, it could be due to chronic dieting, it could be due to stress, it could be due also to a genetic link. So, based on your symptoms, I think that you can get a pretty good idea of what the root cause is when you work with someone. It's really important to work with someone to figure that out. Um, and I think that, there are like the known acid reflux trigger foods that are, like spicy foods, tomatoes, carbonation, caffeine, alcohol. And I think, and it can be really, really helpful to sort of like take those out for a period or reduce them. But I find that food gets blamed as like, oh, this food is
Mm-hmm.
causing my IBS, this food is causing my acid reflux. And that may be true in the moment. And I'm not discrediting anyone who has food intolerances, because that's for real. But I'm just saying the food may not be caught. Like, it's important to address the root cause, like you said.
Yeah, no, I think I hear that all the time. It's like, I have IBS and that's the root cause, but it's more than that, It's like there is a solution, there is more to dig into and to ask questions about, but definitely the underlying dysfunction of that and why you have that is what we want to get to, right?
Right.
So someone did ask, why do you think most doctors don't really want to find the root cause and they do just simply provide, PPIs and things like that for this type of diagnosis or whatever you want to call it.
It's a great question, and I think that they don't have time. There's a lot of demand for productivity and, moving really quickly in the sessions, and they don't have time to dig into, how's your family life? How's your schedule? What
Right.
demands are your body? And so that's, where more integrative practitioner could work with you, um, or work with someone. And they are also taught, functional doctors. I have nothing against them, but they're often taught about medicine, and like that's what they know is like how to like they know a lot of things. I shouldn't say that. They're very intelligent,
Of course.
but their main approach is medicine. They're medical doctor. So it's like their lens is more likely going to be, okay, what pill can I give you to help you? And often what is prescribed to people with acid reflux is the proton pump inhibitor or a similar drug to modulate the acid production in the stomach. However, some people with acid reflux have low stomach acid, and that doesn't help them, the acid suppressor. So it's important, like based on your symptoms, working with a practitioner that can help you identify what is the issue there. And yeah, it's important. And most doctors will recognize, like, this is a band-aid, this is not to be on forever. But some doctors do have an opinion that, like, that's okay to be on forever. And it's kind of like, it's one of those things where, like, if you don't feel like your doctor is serving you, it's a pain to get a new one, but it might be helpful to have, someone on your team that is willing to run the tests you want and, listen.
Absolutely. Well, and I think it's there's so much to uncover when you realize, again, like you said, stress, lifestyle, previous medical history, all those things to unpack, nutrition, physical exercise that all impact those symptoms that obviously somebody in a 5-10 minute meeting can't physically get to. So working
Yeah.
with someone who can get more in the nitty gritty is so important.
Yeah.
So with someone did say with regards to PPIs that you did mention, can you really stop them after taking them for 11 straight months, which sounded like you had a very similar experience. So can you kind of speak to what that process was like just a little bit and like
Yeah.
how somebody could work to transitioning off?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll start by saying, like, there's nothing wrong with taking a PPI. If you have an ulcer and you have severe or you have severe reflux, like, if you need a PPI, you need a PPI. That's okay. like you have to, you know, get control of what's going on. But it's just important to know to, you know, have a doctor you trust to engage with you about when you need it or not. And that being said, never ever change your medication or go off your medication, you know, without the advice of your doctor. I worked with my doctor to wean off of my PPI, and basically my symptoms were at a stable enough point where I had, you know, I'd done some gut healing already. And he felt comfortable with me slowly weaning off and process together. And it was just really slow, you know, weaning off, very, very gradual. And I really utilized mucilaginous herbs in terms of, I tried everything. I was like my own guinea pig with the whole acid reflux weaning off of medication. I tried aloe vera. I still use that throat coat tea. I love the throat coat tea. If I, you know, feel like I have a sore throat or anything like that. But I used DGL chews, which I can actually show a couple things. So these are DGL chews. I use these to wean off of the omeprazole, and then I don't have them anymore because I don't take them. I keep these around just like in case.
Yeah.
But I used to use slippery elm too. And those two herbs were really, really helpful during like the wean off process. And I have more information about that on my YouTube channel.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll lead people that way at the end.
Yeah.
And then someone was also curious, you know, does acid reflux, IBS, can that affect fertility, and what would that look like if so?
Well, I mean, our gut is super connected to our hormonal function, ability to create hormones, and our nutrition status is also related to our ability to produce sufficient hormones. So, like, if IBS is interrupting your ability to get in enough nutrition, whether that's through symptoms or, you know, different food restrictions, then it absolutely can be related. But I wouldn't say, like, I would never say, you know, because you have IBS, you're going to have trouble. That's absolutely not what I'm saying.
Right.
But potentially it could impact hormonal function. I don't know any, you know, specific, I haven't looked at any research between like IBS and fertility. I would be really interested to learn more about that. So I'll look into it. And that person can, you know, circle back with me in a week or so, and I will have looked into it by then.
Perfect. Well, I think it's so interesting. I think people just always forget that everything's so connected. So if the gut's off, yes, that's a big focus, but so is going to be the metabolism. So is potentially, you know, the thyroid and hormones and all those things. So knowing that realistically to get that whole view and to address the dysfunction of any kind and get to the root is going to be only beneficial and supportive of a healthy fertility journey and all those things, like you said. So,
For sure.
well, this was an awesome conversation. I really appreciate your time. And I just want to end with kind of sharing about how people can support you and also how you can support them and where to find you and all that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. I loved chatting with you. Thank you for having me.
Of
So
course.
you can find me on Instagram at zucchini.who. And then I'm changing my handles in the moment at the moment because I'm kind of rebranding after becoming a registered
I was
nurse.
kind of curious what made you come up with that name. Did it have any relation to anything?
Yeah, so I mean, I started my food page years ago, and my mom was like coming up with my mom and I were going back and forth about names, and she was like, "How about like she was like, knock knock." And I was like, "Who's there?" And she was like, "Zucchini." And I was like, "Zucchini." And then we were like, "Oh my God, that is really cute." So
That's
we were
cute.
brainstorming and
Hey, I love it.
but on TikTok, I'm IBS_nutritionist.
Okay.
And then on YouTube, it's just my name, which is Molly Pelletier. But all of these links are in my bio on Instagram. I know it's like I gotta bring it all together, but I'm in the process of, you know, relaunching as a dietitian. So anyway, And then, on YouTube, I share a lot of IBS and acid reflux content. On TikTok, it's more like very short form content, tips and stuff like that. Um, and then I also just launched an acid reflux friendly cookbook that I am so excited about. It's born out of the requests like from my community asking for acid reflux recipes. So in that, there are 75 acid reflux friendly recipes that are designed to help you feel more confident, more excited about cooking. So that you can also get that through the link in my bio.
Wow, so amazing. Look at that. Yeah, I think that's funny that you have like 3 different names.
I know, I gotta figure it out.
Hey, it's okay. You're a busy lady, so you'll get
Yeah.
there. But well, I appreciate your time and I'll definitely keep, connecting and staying in touch. I'll follow you on TikTok for sure. Um, and congrats on continuing school and finishing that up and your next step in your journey. That's so exciting.
Thank you so much. It was so nice chatting with you. Let's definitely stay in touch.
Yes, we definitely will. Thanks, Molly. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. You too. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.